Today we're going to move on into chapter 2. So we're going to talk about something called conditional statements. And a conditional statement is just a statement that can be written in if-then form. And there are symbols for it. And the symbols are P, arrow, Q, which stands for P implies Q. The hypothesis is the if part, or the P. The conclusion is the then part, or the Q. And truth value just means, is the statement true or false? And we have a little symbol and diagram picture, so it says if P then Q, or P implies Q. And if you see a diagram, the P is the little part and Q is the big part. So if the small circle, then the big circle. Let's look at example 1. We're just going to talk about which part is the hypothesis and which part is the conclusion. So as we look at example 1, I want you to keep in mind that when we're picking out the hypothesis and we're picking out the conclusion, that the hypothesis is the if part without the word if, and the then part is the then part without the word then. So look at example 1a. If I pass the driving test, then I will get my driver's license. So the hypothesis is the if part, but without the word if. So H is I passed the driving test. The conclusion is the then part without the word then. So the conclusion would be I will get my driver's license. Now let's look at example B. Now example B has a magic word here right in the center of the sentence. A number is divisible by 10 if its last digit is a 0. So because it has the word if in it, then this is the hypothesis because it is always the if part. So H here is going to be a number's last digit is a 0, or its last digit is a 0. And the conclusion is going to be the other part of the sentence. So in this case, the C is going to be, it is divisible by 10. Now look at example 2. This says rewrite the conditional statement in if-then form. So when we look at these sentences, we're going to read it and we're going to discuss what is the first main thing that it says in the sentence. So for part A number divisible by 9 is also divisible by 3. So the first part of the sentence, a number divisible by 9, that is going to be our hypothesis. So in this case, we're going to say if a number is divisible by 9, then it is also divisible by 3. So if a number is divisible by 9, then it is also divisible by 3. All right, for part B, every game on my computer is fun to play. So again, the first thing we think about is what are we talking about first? So in this case, we're talking about the game on my computer. So if the game is on my computer, then it is fun to play. So if the game is on my computer, then it is fun to play. All right, now part C, if I read that sentence, I will buy the CD if it costs less than $15. So this one again throws in our magic word if, and whenever that happens, the sentence must start there because we know the hypothesis always follows the if word. So if it, or if the CD, costs less than $15, then I will buy it. If the CD costs less than $15, then I will buy it. All right, part D, every duck in the pond is hungry. All right, there's no magic word if. The first thing we discuss in that sentence is duck in the pond. So if the duck is in the pond, then it is hungry. If the duck is in the pond, then it is hungry. All right, the last one of these, a mammal is a warm-blooded animal. All right, the first thing we talk about is mammal. So if it is a mammal, then it is a warm-blooded animal. So again, if it or if the animal is a mammal, then it is a warm-blooded animal. All right, looking at example 3. Now this one is the circle one. So in the very beginning, we said if the small circle, then the big circle. So if it is a square, then it is a rhombus. If it or if a shape is a square, then it is a rhombus. All right, last example, number 4. Says determine the truth value of each conditional statement. If true, explain. If false, find a counterexample. Now in the homework, I'm just going to ask you to find a counterexample if it's false. All right, looking at part A, if a woman lives in France, then she lives in Europe. Well, you got to think, is France the only place in Europe? No. So this is false, and it can be any other place in Europe besides France. So in my case, I'm going to say Great Britain. All right, it can be any other country in Europe besides France. All right, part B. If a number is divisible by 3, then it is odd. So we got to think, can you imagine a number that is divisible by 3 that is not odd? And so hopefully you can see that there is a number, for instance, 12. 12 is divisible by 3, but it is even and not odd. Okay, looking at part C, if you live in a country that borders the United States, then you live in Canada. Well, that too is false because it can be the country of Mexico. All right, the next one, if an angle measures 80 degrees, then it is acute. Well, any angle under 90 is acute, so this is true. If next month is August, then this month is July. Well, August follows July, so this is true. If a triangle has 4 sides, then it is concave. Now, this one is a special sentence because the hypothesis is obviously false. A triangle cannot have 4 sides, thus this whole statement is false. And my reason is going to be a triangle only has 3 sides. So a triangle only has 3 sides. So that covers basically everything in this lesson. So identifying the hypothesis, the if part without the word if, the conclusion, the then part without the word then, how to write a sentence into an if-then statement. So if it has the word if in the sentence, we start there. Otherwise, it's whatever comes first, like every duck in the pond is hungry. The duck in the pond would be your hypothesis. And then we talked about the Venn diagram, if the small circle, then the big circle, and then the truth value. So if it's false, you try to think of an example that makes it false. If it's true, then you're good to go. And that pretty much concludes the lesson, and all you have is a Google form for homework. Thanks.